We are coming to you from Progressive Field in Cleveland, where tonight, WGN Sports on My 50 presents White Sox baseball. It's Todd Frazier, Jose Abreu, Melky Cabrera and the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Jason Kipnis, Francisco Lindor, and the first place Cleveland Indians. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Ken Harrelson with Steve Stone as we get set to bring you Game 2 of this three-game set. In the opener last night, it was another Jose Quintana story. It was just unbelievable. For 4 years, this guy has gone out there, done his job, and he has come empty for the most part. But the Sox did take a gamble on Justin Morneau, and it looks like it's paying off.
Justin Morneau was coming back from an elbow surgery, and you didn't know when he would be ready to go. So the Sox guaranteed him a minuscule amount of money baseball-wise. And it certainly has paid off because he's doing everything. Hitting .444, hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He's driven in 3. It's over the last 6 games. And right now it looks like he's every bit the player that he once was. So this was one of those gambles you take that paid off, and everybody feeling pretty good about Justin Morneau at this point.
Well, the last time we saw our pitcher tonight, Anthony Ronaldo, the big right-hander, it looked like he was pitching his way into the record books.
He threw the ball so very well, and one of the best parts of what he did is he hit a home run. But before that, he took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. This guy threw the ball very well, kept his fastball up. He gave up only 3 earned runs in that small ballpark on the north side. So he threw the ball well enough to win many times. He just didn't happen to win this time. But coming back to make a start, for him, every time out is an audition for next year, and he's hoping that perhaps if he throws the ball well, and that's a terrific curveball, he might be able to secure a spot in this starting rotation. Carlos Carrasco on the other side of the equation threw the ball very well when he saw our ball club and got a no decision back on June 19th. Now, historically, our team has handled him very well. He's 3-8 against the Sox, his ERA up over 5. This is a very good pitcher who's had bad luck against our ball club, and hopefully that continues tonight.
And coming up, we will take a look at 2 young shortstops who are going to be stars in this league, in Lindor and Anderson, and the impact they're having on their team. So sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
Last year, Cleveland Indians took a shot on a young shortstop who happened to be a #1 draft pick, and it's worked out pretty well for Francisco Lindor. The Sox also have a #1 draft pick, and they're taking a shot on a young shortstop in Tim Anderson, and it looks like it's starting to work out well. So we'll take a look at Lindor. He's got the defense. He's got a strong arm, and he's got great range. Then he can hit from both sides of the plate, and he's got power from both sides of the plate. This guy is one of the best-looking shortstops in all of baseball. On the other side of the field, Tim Anderson. in pretty much the same situation, coming to the major leagues with a big arm, a whole lot of range, and a very lively bat. He can drive the ball both ways, to left field, to right field. He's going to hit a lot of home runs, and he's shown early a tremendous amount of progress. So there you look at head-to-head what they've done this year. Anderson's been pretty good. Lindor's been one of the best. Anderson has hit 6 home runs. Lindor's hit 14, and you can see the rest of the situation. They both are pretty good fielders, and both in the infancy stages of what their respective teams hope will be a great career. So stay with it. Anthony Renato coming up, and the Sox take on the Tribe after this.
Brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. By Honda. Get the Honda you love at the Honda Summer Clearance Event, now at your Honda dealer. By Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Ford, America's best-selling brand 6 years running, inviting you to check out our fuel-efficient lineup at your local Ford store or buyfordnow.com. And by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers. Test drive their all-star lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com.
Welcome back to Progressive Field in Cleveland, Ohio. The Chicago White Sox baseball in high definition, brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Indians take the field, and head-to-head against our Sox has been very lopsided this year. Cleveland, 8 out of 10. The batting average of .276, which is good. They've averaged over 5 runs a game, which is what you're shooting for, hitting 14 home runs. ERA as a team, .263, and they've held our Sox to .215 batting average. That is one of the reasons why the Indians have won the last 7 games, is they play head-to-head, and they send one of their best to the mound today. So let's take a look at how Robin is going to line them up. Adam Eaton leading it off with Tyler Saladino in the 2 spot. Then it's Melky Cabrera, Jose Abreu, Justin Morneau, the DH, with Todd Frazier, J.B. Shuck, Tim Anderson on a 9-game hitting streak, and Deandre Navarro catching and hitting 9. The defense, and how they'll line up behind Carlos Carrasco. It's Brandon Geyer, who's playing against a right-hander, which is strange. Tyler Naquin in center, Lonnie Chisenhall in right. Then it's Ramirez, Lindor, Kipnis, and Santana in the infield, with Roberto Perez for the second night in a row behind the plate. Carlos Carrasco having a pretty solid year. He's 8-6, his ERA .321. Bonus batting average is .223, and that's very good. 104 strikeouts, 30 walks. He's allowed 17 home runs, however, as the Indians come in with a 6-game lead over Detroit, picking up a full game last night. Detroit, losers of 7 of their last 10. The Indians, winners of 7 of their last 10. The umpires for the game tonight: Jim Wolf behind the plate, Adrian Johnson at first, Chad Whitson is at second, and the crew chief, Gary Cederstrom, is at third. So on a day that was overcast with just a little bit of rain, no rain in evidence today, and they've thrown the ball around the infield, which means we're ready to play baseball, and I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
Hi, Stoney. Thank you, and once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN Sports on My 50. Second of this 3-game set and 8th of this 9-game road trip. Started off 3 in Kansas City, went to Miami for 3, and this is the second one here. And before we show you our picks to click, you at home select yours as the first pitch of the ball game is taken outside. Eaton comes in hitting at .275, 10 homers, 41 driven in. He was 0 for 4 last evening. Sox lost that ball game 3-1. Another Jose Quintana special. Absolutely amazing.
It truly is. I don't believe I've seen a guy have that kind of luck over the better part of 4 years.
No, I've seen it for a year or two, as you have, with certain guys. Burley had 1 year that it was unbelievable. I think he won 12 games that season. Could have been 18, 19, possibly with some luck, 20.
He's never won double figures, which is astounding considering that he goes out there 200 innings every year, takes the ball for 32, 33 starts, has never won in double figures.
And he's the king of the no decisions. A couple of years ago, 17 no decisions, which is a new record. Got him. Good pitch.
He worked him away and then shaved off the inside corner. Even though that's not where Perez wanted it, it certainly was effective as Carrasco got it there.
So here's Saladino. You know, last night we touched on Kluber and our hitters going over, which they should go over, the stats on, in this case, Carrasco tonight. Last night, Kluber had worked 157 innings, given up 122 hits, had 156 strikeouts, 36 walks, and he only hit 3 guys all season. So that'll tell you, as a right-handed hitter, and 2 of those 3 were left-handed hitters, that he's not going to pitch right-handers inside. So Carrasco's worked 109 in the third, and he's only hit 3 batters on. So it'll tell the right-handed hitters he's probably not going to pitch you inside. If it is, it's going to be off the plate.
Well, like the last one, he was trying to hit the outside corner, but that slider spun inside. Other than that, you're not going to use the inside part too much. And if he does, well, give it to him and look away and maybe hit the ball to right center.
And if you go over it and you see it and you make a determination, then that will help you, even subconsciously, make up your mind that you're probably going to look for the ball from the middle out and go to work from there. Outfield, for the most part, straight up. Bit of a gap out there in right center. And here at the ballpark, 325 down the lines, 375 in right center, 370 in left center, 400 dead away center.
Right-handers have hit him to the tune of 204. That's second in the American League.
He just missed it. High into left field. Brandon Geyer. So with 2 out, let's check out our picks to click. Jim Angio, Mike Leary, the mayor, Mean Joe Groove. They're going to go with Navarro. Steve's going to go with Morneau. What new?
Yeah, I'm doing real well. I can see. I've been red hot.
Fans going to Brayu and Mike Mazik, and he whiz Pete Catazone, all the great folks in the ticket office. And now we're going to go with Tim Anderson. Oh,
I'm in a slump. I'm in a pick-to-click slump.
That's high and away to Melky. Melky at 298, 9 homers, 54 driven in. Gap out there in left center. Sox coming hitting at 251 as a club with a 4.05 ERA. Indians on the other side of that page hitting at 266, 15 points higher than us with a 3.80 ERA. And there you see the tall right here. Boy, he is big. They got him listed as 6'7", and I'll say you stand beside him and he looks like Man Mountain Dean. He is huge. But they have 34 more home runs than we do, which is unusual for a Cleveland club.
Especially a team that runs as well as they run.
Well, they have 100 stolen bases. We have 57, 43 more than us. And that's a 1-2-3 inning, and after happening at place, our guys nothing, and their guys coming to bat.
Indians tonight. Carlos Santana leading it off. Then it's Jason Kipnis, Francisco Lindor with Mike Napoli, a 16-game hitting streak with power. Then it's Ramirez, Chisenhall, Naquin, Geyer, and Perez to round it out. Let's take a look at the defense and how they're going to line up behind Anthony Renato, Melky Cabrera, J.B. Shuck, and Adam Eaton in the outfield. It's Frazier, Anderson, Saladino, and Abreu in the infield. Leonard Navarro gets a nod behind the plate. And Anthony Renato on the hill. Last time we saw him, he was throwing a wonderful game against the Chicago Cubs. His record 1-1, his ERA way up there. And there you look at the rest of the numbers. Only 4 hits in 10 in the third innings.
So here's Santana. Switch hitting first baseman, DH. Shift's going to get it. Oh, it's sharp. Dino, for 1 out.
Renato's on his 3rd professional team. He was with the Red Sox in the major leagues in 2014, the Rangers, and our Sox, going 5-5 total. His ERA just over 6. Sox got him on May 12th from Texas, and he's getting his 2nd start of this season.
So here's Kipnis out of Northbrook. Jason 3 for 4 with an RBI last night. Comes in at 294, 20 homers and 66 driven in. Plus he has played a tremendous second base for him. This is one really good keystone combination with Kipnis and Lindor.
Well, Lindor has the great range. Kipnis is very steady. And offensively, they're a great duo in the middle. Quite as good as what Correa and Altuve give you, but still, the Indians certainly love them, and they'd like to have both of them around for the long haul.
High pop up. Adam. Well, Renato, that outing he had in his debut with us reminded me of another right-hander we had, Kip Wells, making his out of Baylor, former #1 pick with us. In fact, Kip had the best first 7 starts I've ever seen a rookie have. ever.
What happened after that?
Well, they didn't get so good.
They started to adjust to him?
Yeah, well, something happened, but if I knew, I could have told him and stopped it. But no, his first 7 starts, as you look at Lindor hitting at .311, and Renato's start against the Cubs reminded me of one of those starts, rookie, which Renato, as you mentioned, has been with 3 teams. But that was back August 2nd, 1999. Kip Wells made his debut with us.
Anthony likes to stay up in the strike zone with that fastball. And there you look at what he did with the Cubs. 6 2/3 he threw against them. Gave up just 2 hits, 3 runs, and a couple of home runs.
He had great mound presence in it. I mean, it looked like he was saying, all right, get somebody up there. You got them out, get somebody else up there.
Until Chris Bryant came up in the 6th, he was throwing a no-hitter.
That's a fair ball. So a nice 1-2-3 inning for the big right-hander, and after 1 no score.
By logging on to WGNTV.com and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. Sox Game Zone is powered by Dodd Camera, which is family owned for 125 years, handling all your photographic needs. Dodd Camera, where the focus is on you.
So here's Abreu at 280, 14 homers, 65 knocked in. But seeing the ball better and longer is a better way to put it. You know what, that when you say a guy's seeing the ball better, that's a little bit of a misnomer, because what he's in actuality doing is seeing it longer. If you see it longer, you're going to see it better. The speed got him right there. Good motion. And the count 0-2.
Carrasco has a combination curve and slider, and then throws a split change, which has been very good for him. Jose's been red hot, so a pitcher throwing it well against a red hot hitter. So the last 11, he's hitting .375, so 3 home runs and driven in 9 with 3 doubles.
There you go. 1 out. But talking about Kip Wells and Renato, those 7 starts that in his first 7 starts, Kip Wells as a rookie was that finished up the season, because he was in August when he joined us. Was 4-1.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Especially when you figure you're facing some teams that are going to the playoffs.
Sure.
So some teams that are really bearing down, that's what you get when you come up later in the year.
Morneau looking good. 2 for 4 with a homer. Our only tally last evening.
Carrasco's been much better on the road for some reason, and it's hard to explain. He's only gone 3-3 with an ERA over 4.5 here at Progressive Field. That's in 9 previous home starts. Considerably better on the road. For some reason, Lonnie Chisenhall is playing very short right field. I mean, there's plenty of room over his head to hit a 2-base hit.
Good hack, pops it up. Perez being called off by Santana. Which is the right play, and 2 down.
Batting 6 for Chicago.
Join us as the White Sox face the Oakland A's on Saturday, August 20th at 6:10. The first 20,000 fans to enter U.S. Cellular Field will receive a pair of White Sox socks. For tickets, visit whitesox.com, and those are handsome socks.
Here's Todd hitting a 208, but he has 31 long ones and 72 driven in. Takes first pitch strike.
Carrasco is the last holdover from the Cliff Lee deal with Philadelphia. He's been in this organization for 8 years. And still just 29, should be in the prime of his career.
Now he experienced heart palpitations over the past few seasons, which led him to have a non-invasive procedure in the 2014-15 seasons.
Well, you also mentioned because of that, he took a below market but long-term deal, especially for a guy with his talent.
Well, that was a decision he and his family talked
Yep.
about at length, I'm sure, and his agent decided with the heart palpitations they didn't know what was going to happen, and they decided, because that's right back over our heads, they decided that might be the best route for them to go.
Well, they've got Kipnis on a long-term deal. They've got Gomes on a long-term deal. They've got Brantley on a long-term deal, and Kluber and Carrasco.
Well, I was thinking about it walking into the ballpark today. You put Brantley in this lineup and it changes the whole dynamic of that. As he gets it, says Wolf, and that'll retire the side. So that is 6 up, 6 down. Mike Napoli to lead it off here in their half of the second inning. Takes it up high. Napoli hitting at .266, but he has 29 homers and 85 driven in. A dangerous man.
He's also brought to this team something they really needed, which was a guy who had won before, a pretty tough guy, and a guy who was not afraid to go up and talk to individual players away from the spotlight and not to grandstand with his team. He'll pull them aside and mention a few things that maybe they're not doing or would like to do a little bit better.
There's the strike. And the count 1-2.
16-game hitting streak. You see what he's done. 7 home runs, 17 driven in. It's actually Dustin Pedroia that went to Terry Francona and said, whatever you do, you got to get Napoli on your ball club. He said, I played with him, and I got to tell you something. That guy's a winning player, and he's going to help make your team a winning team. And, of course, Dustin Pedroia was an MVP for Terry Francona. He took his words to heart, talked to the front office who listened to him, and they went and got Napoli, and he's been terrific for them.
That ball hit hard into left center field, kind of towards the end of the bat. Sounded better than it went. Meanwhile, went out. Well, the first thing, as we talked about that last night, first thing that Terry Francona did was they went over the roster and decided there were 4 or 5 guys on this team that Terry didn't want on the ball club.
Yeah, and again, having the ear of the front office and the front office listening to a guy with, number one, a couple of World Series under his belts, and number two, a lot of game cred, they made the moves.
You want guys with egos. There's no question about that. Everybody's got to have an ego if you're going to play in Major League sports. But you don't want guys with arrogance. There is a huge, huge difference.
Well, this guy at bat has been with the Indians organization for a long time, and for a while looked like he'd be a swing player. He'd get a spot start here and there. He just has kept getting better and better and was one of the offensive leaders of this team early on. And another fact that will go unnoticed most of the time, they asked him to play left field because with Brantley out, they really had a hole in the outfield. He spent a lot of time learning left field before they moved him back to the infield. And being naturally a middle infielder, it's an easier position for him.
Well, he's established himself right now with this ball club. There's no doubt about that. First 2 months, he and Lindor, for the most part, carried this club offensively. That's the first hit of the ball game. That's his 31st double.
One thing about Renato that eventually might come back to plague him is that he throws a lot of pitches up in the zone. It's one thing to go up for a strikeout by design. You go face high for that. But if you're going to consistently stay up in the zone, you're going to give up a lot of home runs and line drives. And Ramirez got a high fastball, took it down the line. He's in scoring position.
Here's Chisenhall, 27-year-old outfielder now. Was a first-round pick as a third baseman, and looked like he had a chance to be one heck of a player. Didn't work out that way so far.
No, really, he's had a hard time with the left-handers, so they've eliminated that by using him as a platoon player, and he's hitting close to 300.
Well, everybody has their comfort zone, and everybody has their not-so-comfort zone. That's what managers have to do. It's not find out what they can do. It's find out what they can't, and then don't ask them to do it. Hit foul. Hit foul. It's 2-0.
7 and 44 on the power numbers as Lonnie Chisenhall takes one down and in and rides it out of the ballpark. Our Mazda replay. He just cranks it down the line. The only question, would it stay fair long enough? And Adrian Johnson answered in the affirmative. A 2-run blast, 2-zip.
So here is Tyler Naquin. Well, normally that wouldn't bother you too much, but the way we have been swinging the bats, everybody in a gray uniform tonight gets a little concerned.
Well, especially when you're facing a pitching staff like the Indians can put together. Their starting rotation is very good, 1 through 5, and then of course now you get Andrew Miller to that bullpen, and the bullpen looks awfully good also.
Yeah, when you got Kluber and you got Carrasco and you got
Salazar
and you got Bauer and you got Tomlin, that's pretty good stuff.
Pretty good. Tyler Naquin, by the way, among American League rookies, he's leading with a .314 batting average over Chesler Cuthbert. So we saw this young guy in spring training, and he hit the ball pretty well, but there's a lot of guys that hit it well in Arizona because curves and sliders just don't work. Not near as much as they're going to. Nope. And he's hit 13 home runs. Max Kepler with the lead for rookies with 15. Naquin also on the leaderboard, 37 driven in. Max Kepler leads that also. So Max is having a pretty good run with those Twins.
Yeah, this is where you got to have team leaders. And this is where they come into play. Clint Hurdle, manager of the Pirates. Terrific individual, has this newsletter that he sends out sometimes a couple times a week, and he does a lot of quotes from Johnny Wooden, who was quite a coach.
I should hope so.
Yeah. Here you go. 2 down. And Wooden was asked, what qualities do you look for when you're looking at 2 outstanding young talents on a basketball court? What makes you pick one over the other? And he said, there's 2 things: quickness and competitiveness. Because good competitors, Wooden said, are people. It's just like Michael Jordan was a great competitor. And Michael, even though he scored a lot, he wanted to get his teammates involved in that scoring, in that win, so that everybody became a better player. And that's why in baseball you need team leader. You need a team leader, preferably a couple, because there's a solid base hit. So Geyer's now 3 for 7 with a homer off Renato.
That fastball right down the middle, and as you can see, it's belt high. And Geyer, who normally plays against the left-handers, swinging a pretty good bat. With Cleveland, just 22 at bats, and he's hitting in the 450 range.
Well, he's 10 for 22.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So here's Roberto Perez, 1 for 3 last evening. There's a chopper, 2 hopper. But the 2-run homer by Lonnie Chisenhall. And after 2, it is 2-0 Indians. Hall. And we're into the third. It'll be Shuck, Anderson, and Navarro. First 6 put down by Carlos Carrasco. Shuck hitting at 214. Outfield slightly to the left. And there's the base hit. Good way to start. You can cancel a post-game show.
Hey, Chicagoland viewers, it's time for the Subway third inning triple play promotion. Text Subway 3 to 97999 right now. And the 300th texter will win a $30 gift card to Subway restaurants in the Chicagoland area. Subway, fresh is what we do.
Here's Tim Anderson. Timmy on a 9-game hitting streak. Steve, you know what's always amazed me is how many very talented players are not good competitors because they've never had to compete.
No, you see, well, you don't see it a lot. You don't see it a lot in the major leagues, but you see it a lot coming up, and you see it a lot in some other sports where guys have dominated every level they've ever been at.
That's right.
And they never had that period in their life where they had to struggle competitively. And so, you know, until you're looking from the bottom up, or you're looking at some people that might be a little bit better than you, but you have to beat them to be successful, it's going to be very difficult for you unless you're born with that innate sense of being a competitor.
Well, you see, most of the good competitors, the majority of the good competitors, are guys who are below the very talented players. That ball hit high, deep, stay fair, stay fair. They look up. You can put it on the board. Yes, a bomb by Tim Anderson, and this game is tied at 2.
That hit about the top of the pole. It was way up there. It's only 325 down the line, but there's no telling how far that one would have went had the pole not interrupted its progress. So Anderson got every bit of this, his 7th home run. This is a strong guy, and I truly believe he's going to be 20-plus home runs each and every year, but that is a blast.
Well, Mike Leary put that piece together in the opening there about 2 very talented shortstops. So another 2 very talented shortstops that we have in baseball. As Navarro fouls that back. So Mike Mazza, Kenny Wiz, Pete Catazone, Nick Bristow, Mary Weiss. All the great folks in the ticket office. Charles Johnson. A lot of great folks. Their pick to click.
Well, that's one of the things Carrasco has done. 2nd on the team in throwing home runs. At the 18th he's given up.
1 down.
Check out the White Sox baseball blog at WGNTV.com. Sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 38 years. To join the nation, visit JeffVuk.com, because Nationwide is on your side.
Back to the top of the order with Adam Eaton, struck out leading off the ball game. Makes the bunt, takes the ball. But, you know, getting back to the competitor, you know how I feel about pitchers. Unless there's something, I mean, just absolutely extra special about a college pitcher. Not a high school pitcher, but a college pitcher. I think the worst draft in baseball is a first-round high school pitcher. And I think, do the math and it'll prove it out.
Oh, there's no doubt. There is no doubt.
But my favorite pitchers come from anywhere from the 8th to the 15th round, because these guys have had to compete. They have had to get out there. And when you get those first round pitchers, You know, guys throwing in high school 94, 95, 96, they don't have anything to compete against. They just blow these kids away.
Yeah, they might have. You might be facing a team with 2 hitters, maybe. You know, when you're facing even decent high school programs, they might have 2 guys who can really hit. They have a couple of guys who hit okay, but you're going to dominate most of that lineup.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's where you get your 17 strikeouts in 7 innings.
Give me a team of competitors. The TW guys. There's a bunt. Stay fair. It won't. Hits the cut of the grass. Kicks it foul.
There's so very little room between the grass and the foul line here that if it does trickle off the grass, almost without exception, it's going to roll foul. There are many ballparks where there's a lot of room, and that would have stayed fair easily. But Adam now will look at a 3-2 pitch.
Yeah, you check the roster on Major League pitchers, you'll find the vast majority of them come from that 8th to the 15th round. Couldn't pull the trigger. That's 6 strikeouts now for Carrasco.
It was very close to the same spot. He got him the first time up. Good moving fastball. That one Adam thought was going to be inside because it started there and then drifted back over the plate.
Here's Tyler. Tyler just missed one. Hit a high towering fly ball into left field. And of course, with that home run by Tim Anderson, Alex Nelius family with another generous donation to White Sox charities in loving memory of Ursula. Boy, he killed that ball. Wow.
He sure did. We saw him hit one off the fence in right field last night.
You know, you might, if you evaluate all the great young shortstops we have, from what we've seen, it may prove us wrong, but from what we've seen, the 2 most powerful might be Correa and Anderson. Anderson, that ball just jumps off his bat.
Yeah, and it's very lively to all fields. There's a lot of guys can pull the ball that hit it out of the park, and then they don't get much in it when they hit it the opposite way. Tim Anderson is not like that.
Oh boy, Tyler, nice piece of hitting right there on an 0-2 count.
You got to go into somewhat of a defensive mode, and this is a fastball away. In fact, it's a very good 0-2 pitch. But if you shorten your swing and you're looking for just something to protect, sometimes it turns into gold, as that one did there.
The shorter the bat, the shorter the swing.
Nice job of poking it through the right side.
Here's Melky, struck out. Good lead. Carrasco, pretty quick feet. Over to first.
Nine for 12 is not a bad running percentage.
Be careful with it.
Quick move to first. Fortunately, Tyler was not leaning the wrong way. Able to get just back in under the tag.
goes. He gone. But the 2-run homer, and we are tied at 2. Top of the order here in the bottom of the third. Santana to lead it off. Takes up high. He grounded out to Saladino his first trip. Second of the 3-game set and finale tomorrow night. Carlos Rodon against Danny Salazar. And that game will be over Comcast Sportsnet. Then we come home. Oakland for 3, Philadelphia for 2, and Seattle for 4. Pretty good rip. And the count 2-1.
Last night, Santana hit 5th, protecting Napoli, leading off tonight.
Chops that one foul, so a full count.
He will take a walk, but he's got big power from the left side. He's got 25 home runs, 22 have come as a left-hand hitter.
Just got a piece of it. Santana in 2014 walked 113 times. Last year he walked 108 times. 2013 walked 93 times. 2011 walked 97 times. So yes, he will. He will take a walk. It's 3-2 Indians.
We told you about the big power from the left side, and that was a high fastball, and he got every bit of that. 26. 63 driven in. That ball looked like it was shot out of a cannon. Santana knows it's gone when it leaves the bat. Every pitcher knows that sound.
Everybody in the ballpark knew that sound.
That was a blast.
In fact, everybody at home knew that sound. Kipnis popped up to Adam Eaton in right field. Nice pick on the short hop.
Tee off for charity and join Chicago White Sox Charities for the Field of Greens Celebrity Golf Tournament presented by Miller Lite. This year's tournament will be held on Monday, August 22nd at Harborside International Golf Center. Join the fun and sign up your foursome by visiting WhiteSoxCharities.org or call 312-674-5391.
So here's Lindor. Can't get it. I was talking to Francisco after the game last night. He resides in Claremont, which is just north of Orlando. And the school that he went to is just a sports factory. Parents living there with, he bought them houses there in Claremont.
I can understand that.
Oh, yeah. Very engaging young man. Great smile.
Fifth in the American League. 141 hits. For a guy in his first full season. Make that 142.
Yeah. Just 22 years old. So here's Napoli. He went out to center field. Sounded like he hit that ball hard, but he got it off the end of the bat and it just died. Just a decent lead, short lead. Lindor 15 for 20 in stolen bases. A little bigger lead now, about a half a step bigger. Two and one.
Napoli looks like he's seeing the ball pretty well from Renato. When he sees it well, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, he goes in streaks, he goes in stretches. It looks like he's learned how to see it maybe another 6 inches, sometimes maybe another foot longer. When he first came up, he was probably a 53, 54 foot hitter. And that's what experience does for you. It causes you to find a way to see the ball longer.
Well, Napoli said that when he came through the system with the Angels, he had some guys who were established, very intense major league players. He learned from Darren Erstad, who you remember as being one of the most intense guys, one of the great competitors around.
Yeah.
And Tim Salmon, another one of the players who taught Mike Napoli, and he feels because they did it for him, it's his responsibility to try to do it for some of the younger players coming up through the Indian system. And that's how this game perpetuates itself. That's how the young players learn. They learn from veterans like Mike Napoli, who learned from veterans when he got into pro ball.
But as you well know, there are a lot of veterans who will not even talk to rookies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know
will
that.
not even talk to them. And I mean, I'm not going to mention any names, but some guys in Cooperstown who will not talk to rookies.
I came up with one who said to me after I threw my first shutout, he didn't congratulate me. He said, don't forget how you do it. And then he talked to me about this certain pitch. And I said, well, when can we learn it? He said, when you bring $3,000 to the ballpark.
Wow.
I said, I'm taking home $8,500. I said, you want 40% of my take-home pay? And he said, yeah, but you're thinking about it in the short run. Think about it in the long run. I said, but in the short run, I can't pay my rent.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, well.
That's a first.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit
Yeah,
down the
right.
road.
Yeah, that's a first for me.
It was a first for me.
But it doesn't surprise me knowing some guys.
Yeah.
As that is ball 2. Ramirez, he's dangerous. Doubled hard down into the right field corner and scored. That was last inning. Two and one.
Ramirez has been very tough from both sides of the plate. 321 as a right-hand hitter and came in at 307 with that double as a left-hand hitter.
That ball hit into right center field. Lindor's going to tag, and he's going to go into third. But we saw Ramirez coming on last year at the end of the season that if he kept it going, he had a chance. Well, he kept it going, and he's even surpassed that, kept it going.
And another guy who's shown his versatility is Michael Inoa. Starts loosening up in the pen. Ramirez, a middle infielder who can play just about anywhere.
So here's Chisenhall. 2 out runners at the corners. This is a big, in the scheme of things, an out in this game. And this is what he did last inning.
Got one on the inside part of the plate and took it right down the line. Stayed fair, gone. And answered by Tim Anderson's towering home run. Both of the 2-run variety.
Yeah, there have been 2 long ones, one by Anderson and one by Santana. It's over into our dugout. 0-2 the count. Bust him right underneath his hands. Lindor had faked down the line.
Jenner likes to do this. He likes to throw behind the runner if he has a chance.
And that's a base hit, and it's 4-2.
It's 45 driven in. That ball stayed up in the zone. Looked like he tried to throw him a curveball, but it was right up in his eyes. He took it right by Saladino on into right field. And 3 of the 4 driven in by Lonnie Chisenhall.
Well, we talked about it last night. If you're going to be on Francona's team, you're going to play.
Yeah, he's a very big believer in the 25-man roster. They're here for a reason. They're all interchangeable parts, and he will use them.
Naquin struck out his first trip. Good rip right there.
You ever get on base 45 straight games?
No. You kidding me?
Jason Worth.
What hurts?
He drew a walk today. He's been on base in 45 straight games for the Washington Nationals. Steven Strasburg got pounded in Colorado. Nationals lost one to him. Strasburg gave up 9 runs.
But in that game, Bryce Harper hit one 481 feet.
Yeah, that is
longest of his career.
That's, if it's going to go that far, it'll go that far there.
You ever play golf out there?
Yeah. They say 10% longer. It seems like it flies a lot better than 10%.
Yeah, that's. He gone, but a couple of more across the plate. And we now trail it again by 2. Fourth inning. 4-6-0 for them. 2-3-0 for us. Cabrera, he was at the plate when Saladino was gunned down at second by Roberto Perez. Abreu on deck and Morneau in the hole. So we got some guys can get this thing back square. That pitch way outside, called a strike. Changes pitches like that change the whole dynamic of the at bat. I don't care. They can say, well, he's a veteran, he got to overlook it and all that. That's a bunch of BS. Especially in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning in a close game.
Well, that's where guys, hitters, will get aggravated, because if it hasn't been a strike in the first 6, you certainly don't expect it to be a strike in the 7th.
That's into center field. Naquin.
Naquin's got a very good chance of Rookie of the Year. Had just a great spring, and he's certainly carried it over into the season.
Here's Abreu, struck out swinging his first trip. was a good pitch that he did not get.
Might have had too much movement on it.
Here's the base hit. Attaboy.
Sunday, August 28th is Husky Day at U.S. Cellular Field. When you purchase tickets using the Northern Illinois University ticket code, fans will receive a ticket voucher good for one-of-a-kind White Sox NIU co-branded hats. Northern Illinois University, your future, our focus. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com/NIU.
Here's Morneau. Hit a high pop-up foul ground that Santana at first base came in and took the pressure off Perez, the catcher. Boy, you look at Abreu, this three, not counting Melky, but Abreu, Morneau, and Frazier. That's pretty formidable three, but there's an awful lot of strikeouts in there.
Yeah, there are that. Teams that don't put the ball in play with regularity better hit it out of the park with regularity.
And then you get teams that put it in play, like Cleveland, who have more home runs than we have. Then that's double jeopardy.
And leading the league by far in stolen bases.
Again, this is a different looking ball club with Michael Brantley is in that lineup. Boy, I'll tell you what, as we talked earlier in between innings, if he were in there and healthy, this thing would have been put away a long time ago.
Yeah, they would be thinking about the playoff rotation at this point. As it is, a fairly comfortable 6-game lead, 7 in the loss column, but still, Detroit is within sight, and Brantley only played 11 games this entire season. I think for the Indians' standpoint, it's probably best that it was announced that he's going to be lost for the year, because it was, when's he coming back? Can he come back? He tried to come back twice, took some shots. They did some breaking up of scar tissue. They did a lot of things with Michael Brantley, and the Indians had hope he would come back and be some semblance of what he had been. So finally they said season-ending surgery, and I think now they know.
Attaboy, Justin. Abreu on his way to third. Now Naquin couldn't get it out of the glove, so Morneau into second. Or Geyers, excuse me. Double clutched it.
That's a changeup. He stayed right with it. Hit it through the left side. No way in the world that Ramirez thought he was going to take it down the line. And then Geyer has his problems. So the tying runs at second and third. Mickey Callaway running out to the mound to have a talk with Carrasco, who's never had much luck against the Sox. For whatever reason, he's been a good pitcher for a while. But 3-8 with an ERA of .545 during the course of his career. This year he's thrown a bit better, but these are lifetime numbers, and he's having some problems tonight. There you look at the numbers. 14 starts, 15 appearances. The batting average against isn't too bad at .258, but apparently, as he's done tonight, giving up some long balls, which he's prone to do because he's around the plate with most everything.
Ducks on the pond, 1 out, and here is Frazier, who struck out. Back in the second inning. That ball hit deep. He looks up. You can off the wall. That's going to score a pair. It looked like for a second that was going to be out of here. Meanwhile, 2 across the plate, and this game is tied at 4.
That was a blast, and it looked like it barely stayed in the ballpark. Runs 73 and 74 as Todd Frazier pretty much thinking he had number 32 in the bank.
I did, I'll tell you that.
But it was not to be. Naquin just looks up, and this ball hits high off the wall.
Naquin looked up early.
In a hurry.
Yeah.
He thought that was way out of here.
So here's Shuck. Takes a strike. He singled and scored last inning. So the 13th double for Frazier. Steve told you now 74 knocked in. That's up play. Totals on the board identical at 4, 6, and 0. Ball hits sharply. Meanwhile, off the glove of Kipnis now. They're going to throw back. Now he's going to go to second base, and they're going to get him hung up. Chuck, and now here comes Todd, and he's going to score.
Looks to me like it's got to start with E4, and then, well,
go
then
from there.
The Indians forgot the cardinal rule in a rundown of this consequence, and that is, it's the man trying to score that can hurt you. That's the guy you got to worry about. Now, Perez, good throw to second base. They've got Shuck hung up, but Santana's so intent on the tag that he forgets about Frazier, and he scores a go-ahead run.
4-2-6-3 if you're scoring along with us. Era 4. That ball was tattooed, though, by Shuck. And here's Tim. He is 1 for 1. And we will show you that one hit after this pitch. And poof.
The only question on this one is, would it stay fair long enough? And Tim trying to put some body English on it. It's the top of the pole.
That's a jaunt. Yes, he did. And that'll retire the side. But some damage is done. A 3-spot goes up there, and we lead it 5-4. 5-4 here in the bottom of the fourth inning. Brandon Geyer, who singled, will lead it off. Takes first pitch strike.
Offense has come to life tonight and given Anthony Renato a 1-run lead.
Oh, and 2 the count.
Yes, unfortunately, the offense does score some runs, Jose, just not for you.
Listen, it really is. It really is. And now, Geyer is 2 for 2.
First 25,000 people who attend a Chicago White Sox game will receive a game card courtesy of Jewel Osco with a coupon for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more. Jewel Osco, your moment is our moment, so purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME. And Anthony Renato probably has good enough stuff to be here, but he's got to change eye levels, and he doesn't do that. He throws everybody up in the zone. It really comes back to haunt him when then he misses his spot. And Geyer, who's hitting just over 200 against right-handers, is 2 for 2 against Renato.
That's fouled away. He also is 4 for 8.
Yep.
Lifetime against him. So he sees the ball longer against him.
Well, like most hitters, I'm sure, when you're throwing high strikes, that's very hittable. You want to throw face high, as Jose Quintana does, and a lot of pitchers are starting to do when they call elevating it. That's a different story. But high in the zone, especially early in a count, you're going to get hurt.
What's that old saying? Show me a guy that knows how to pitch up, and I'll show you a winner. Yeah, you stay up there on 2 or 3 pitches and 1 at bat, you're in jeopardy.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to go up by design after staying down, and he doesn't stay down a whole lot.
Oh, and 2 the count.
Looks like Michael Yanoa again up for the second time in the pen.
This is a man you got to get right here. 9th place hitter. Perez grounded out to short his first trip.
That one just barely missed.
Nice by DeHonor.
But that time he moved off very well to his right, took that breaking ball in the dirt. Stopped Geyer from going to second base.
All right. I think a bad throw.
I think Terry's going to take a look at that play at second base.
Bad throw. They do get Perez at first, but you got to know who's running. Perez is not a speed burner.
And Geyer is not overly fast either.
Another one of those things that we talked about is we mentioned last night, double plays were not turned.
And that's exactly what happened. In fact, Tyler just got under the throw. Anderson is nowhere near second base. This is going to be one of the shortest reviews in history, because he did call him out at second. That was Chad Whitson, and he was safe by plenty.
Well, last night that burned Quintana.
Yeah, it did. Cost him the what turned out to be the winning run with a little insurance later on by Kipnis, and he is called safe at second.
Yeah.
So it'll go as a 4-6-3 throw to first base. So don't get the double play.
Well, there again, it's going to be a team error or an error on the throw.
Yep. Yeah, the old you can't assume the double play. I'm not sure why exactly.
Well, you know, a play like that is, I mean, it's common sense. Especially if you go ahead and turn it over and get the man at first. That certainly is an error. Yeah, there's a play on that if Tim knew he was off the bag and then decided not to throw to first and Perez is safe there, then, you know, you can't assume that. But that's an error. There's a strike. This man hit an absolute bomb out of here last inning. And we'll show it to you after the pitch if you missed it. Shot, base hit. So he will be held to third.
Santana with good plate coverage goes the opposite way and punches it through the left side. Good base running by Geyer as he holds up, not wanting to get doubled off. He can't possibly score as Sarbois holds him right there.
And here's Kipnis, popped up to right and grounded to third.
He's grounded into 16 double plays this year, tops on the ball club in that department.
Ate him up right there.
He has, however, hit 5 sacrifice flies. And somewhat surprisingly, that is tops on the ball club.
And that's going into the seats. Oh, and 2. That's into left field. Melky slips, now getting in shape, and that's going to tie. So a gift run right there. And then, again, there's where the scoring goes against the pitcher.
RBI number 67 and the 6th sacrifice fly for Jason Kipnis. Melky goes back, loses his footing, stays with it, but no chance at the plate.
So So here's Lindor. He's 1 for 2 with a run scored. Breaking ball strike. Tony, the bottom line, we're just playing some bad baseball.
Yeah, and against good teams, and guys as hot as Lindor in his last 15, hitting close to 350. Driven in 10, scored 12. That's good. Now, gift runs to real good teams will always do you in.
That's what we talk about. First rule in baseball is you got to catch the ball. And by that means you're always going to make physical mistakes, but you got to cut them to a minimum. You can't give the other team 29, 30 outs, and you're going to get 27. No. Against good teams, they're going to beat you.
Four or five outs, that's going to do in any pitcher.
And that one play last night, look how many extra pitches Quintana had to throw.
Yep. Because the double play is not turned. Well, that would happen to be, was going to be a pickoff and out of the inning, but it wasn't.
Gotcha.
Indians have drawn very well on the weekends, but outside of that, not so well. And this is a very exciting team to watch because they do put a lot of pressure on the defense. They hit the ball out of the park and they run exceptionally well. That creates exciting baseball.
But a gift run ties it up, and we'll go to the fifth.
Third Bank now get access to over 45,000 fee-free ATMs nationwide.
By 5 tie, 5-6 and 0, which is misleading for us. 5-8 and 1 for them. Here's Deanner. He struck out his first trip. Carrasco has 7 punch-outs. Outfield, Naquin deep in center. Chisenhall short and right. Checks it up. And the count 3-0.
Chisenhall has been playing very shallow right field against everybody, including Justin Morneau, which is somewhat surprising. That's a man with a lot of confidence that he can go back on the ball.
Yes, it is. Anytime you see an outfielder playing short like that, one of two things: either he's got the confidence or he's misplaying him.
Well, was a third baseman, has to play the outfield because of the lack of outfielders of this Cleveland team. Of course, they brought over Rajai Davis. That was a good addition to the ball club, and then brought Geyer and Miller at the trade deadline. Those were good additions to this team.
Into left field. Geyer.
Stepping in now.
Here's Adam Eaton, 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. One swinging up a high fastball, the other called on a high fastball. They won't catch that one. That ball into the gap. And here he goes, and here's the throw. Safe. Hustle double right there for the most part. That's his 19th two-bagger.
I don't think Adam felt it would be quite that close, but Naquin made it close. He throws right over the top, and a one-hopper. It's on the money. But Adam there with the head-first dive right ahead of the tag, and he realized he's got to turn it up a notch.
Yeah, he's the only guy on the club that could have made that a double.
They're taking a look at it in the dugout, but it looked like his hand got there. And Terry wants him to take a look. He thinks the tag on the chest got there. Looks to me from that angle that the hand got in before the tag. Kipnis thought he got him. Adam thought he was safe. And they'll leave it to the guys in New York.
You're just tuning in. Indians with 2 in the second, 2 in the third, a gift run in the fourth. Sox with 2 in the third.
And he's in.
And he's safe. So that indeed is 19th two-bagger. A 5-5 tie, and pick him up, Tyler. He is 1 for 2. Nobody hanging out around second. Tacks it up, fouls it off. Gap out there in left center. Checks it up, fouls it off.
It's 2 times he didn't meet a swing, and now he's in an 0-2 hole. Crockett and Otero. Otero the right-hander, Crockett the left, in the pen.
One and two. And that's popped up right side, maybe. Nope, just on top of the dugout. Big gap out there in left center if he can find it. That's up high.
He hung a breaking ball that time and was able to get away with it. Told it bad he stayed away. That one spun right over the heart of the plate. Teller trying to drive in the go-ahead run.
Two down.
The battling at bat, and finally gets him on what appeared to be a slider away.
Well, you've got to make commitments at the plate. You've got to make adjustments at the plate, sometimes pitch to pitch. And when you know the MO of a guy, which we do on Carrasco,
Yep.
There are times that there's a high chopper. They get him and that'll retire that. But there are times that you just got to hang out and look for the ball from the middle out. It's just that simple. Meanwhile, we're halfway home, tied at 5.
Mazda CX-3 and support Chicago White Sox charities. Buy your raffle ticket today at whitesox.com/SoxCar to purchase your raffle ticket. Thank you to our friends at C.J. Wilson Mazda for their support of the Sox Car Raffle. And we got a new pitcher coming in the ball game. It is Michael Inoa. So Anthony Renato went 4, gave up 5 runs on 8 hits. We'll take a look at the numbers of Inoa. On for the 14th time. He's 1-0. The ERA very respectable, 3.18.
He's got Napoli, Ramirez, and Chisenhall.
And early in his career with Oakland, he missed 2 separate years due to injury. One, Tommy John surgery. The other, some elbow problems. They signed him as a very young man. He had a world of potential. Still throws the ball 95. And when he throws it in the zone, he's pretty tough to hit.
That one at 95.
Get it up there and threw it by him. Indians have 5 switch hitters. They got 3 in the lineup tonight. Gives Terry Francona a lot of versatility in this lineup. There's a look at Terry with his bench coach, Brad Mills.
Brad Mills really a solid baseball.
Yeah, and they've been together quite a while.
Be gone.
One of the things that Terry did when he came over was the manager's office in Cleveland Indians locker room had just 2 walls, no windows whatsoever. So the manager couldn't see out, players couldn't see in. And one of the things that he did, talked to Chris Antonetti and said, look, you got to give me a window to see my players, and they have to know that they can see me and they can walk in any time when they walk by. And that's the first thing he did when he got here, which is a pretty good idea. Good for communication. And Terry is all about that. He's one of the best there is at communicating with his players. And they know that if they have anything, he will listen to them.
We touched on it last night. There are certain things and baseball is a very funny game as far as numbers go, because numbers can be so misleading. One of the biggest misleading numbers in baseball, really, as far as winning ball games, is batting average. That can be very, very misleading. You can have a guy hitting, 285, 310, but never doing anything to win a ball game for you. It's very soft, 285 or 310. And then you take it to managing. The communication part is essential, especially in today's marketplace, in today's culture of the game. It's never been more, because as there is ball 4, there's no more. The management has no more leverage because of the contracts that are signed by these players. There's no more fear of being sent down to AAA. There's no more fear of sitting on the bench, because when you're making $1 million or $2 million a month, you're going to play.
I would think so. They're certainly paying you for a good reason.
Chisenhall, 2-run homer and an RBI single.
Ramirez will run. 20 stolen bases, been caught 6 times.
Yeah, he had one last night. And here it is, middle of August. He's got 20. The only thing on his mind is when he does get on base is getting 30.
Yeah, this is a very aggressive team, and they like to pressure the other team's defense.
But getting back to the numbers, when you say, okay, who's the best GM manager combo? Well, that's pretty easy to answer right there, because in this case, numbers don't lie. You can go down to Atlanta with Bobby Cox and John Schuerholz, 14 consecutive divisional titles. That ends that conversation right there. Who's the best?
You're talking about in history? That's
that ends that conversation.
That's right up there.
Then you go to managers, a guy who's been over 500 11 straight years. That ends that conversation on who's one of the best managers in the game and who might go down as one of the best managers that ever managed. 11 straight years of 500 or better. And if you don't know or hadn't heard, we talked about it last night. That's Terry Francona. High in the left field, Melky. Under the current conditions in baseball with free agency and everything else, to be 500, better than 500, 11 straight years, you would think is almost impossible.
Well, this Cleveland team now, as soon as Mark Shapiro left to go to Toronto, they took Chris Antonetti, moved him up to the president's spot, brought Michael Chernoff, who was here, and they made him the general manager in his 13th year with the Indians. And they brought in the right man. I mean, Terry was available. That was their first choice. They talked to him. And he's come here and done a whale of a job.
Well, it's tougher managing today than it's ever been. Ever. For various and obvious reasons. So that being the case, hiring the right guy is more important than it's ever been. Tyler Naquin, 0 for 2, a couple of strikeouts. Got ourselves a 5-5 tie here in the bottom of the 5th inning if you're just tuning in. Big gap in left center. That's by Abreu. So now the throw. So that walk now at third base.
He comes off with a pitch and has his ball go right under the glove. Ramirez never hesitates. Easily into third base.
That'll bring up Brandon Guyer, who is 2 for 2 with a run scored. Takes a strike. You know, you were talking about the Indians' attendance that Bob DiBiase was talking about us last night, not drawing well at all during the week and drawing nicely on the weekends. Well, at one time, this club had 455 consecutive sellouts.
Well, those days they had some great teams, but you know, they always say a lot easier to get them to come here than it is to, once you lose them, to get them back. And that's what
market
happened.
Share.
Once they lost him.
Once you lose your market share, you got a tough time to get. You got to spend a lot of money to get the market share back.
You know, despite the fact that the Browns have been awful for quite some time, this is still a big football town. Always has been. And they will pack them in for each and every game. They have for as long as you can remember. You remember you played in Old Municipal Stadium. Browns would draw 86,000, And the Indians would draw 3,000 or 4,000.
Sometimes.
and that was the biggest stadium around.
I remember playing right field at that ballpark against certain teams and counting the fans in the stands.
Yeah. Then they came here and they put together a terrific team, and now the Cavs have won it all, given Cleveland their first championship in a long time. Indians won it in '48. Cavs had never won it.
There he goes. So that's his 4th stolen base. Six ways to defend that play with a man on third. That was one of them, but that wasn't the right one.
Not the great way.
No.
Unless your man at third falls asleep, which Ramirez didn't.
Now base hit. Puts 2 on the board. Ate him up inside. Good pitch.
Ooh, this one right in under his hands. Couldn't do anything with it.
Well, we talk about a lot of hitters cannot stand close to the plate, cannot stand on top of it. A lot of pitchers cannot pitch inside.
Nope.
And the old cliche in baseball is withstood the test of time. That's the reason it's a cliche. Show me a guy that can't pitch inside, and I'll show you a loser.
Well, there's been a few that could pitch but didn't primarily pitch. They primarily pitched away, Tom Glavine being one of them, but not many.
You always got exceptions
Yeah.
to every rule.
Not many. You got to be able to
Tommy John.
go inside to push a guy off the plate and occasionally grab a strike.
And that is a souvenir. So the count holds at 3 balls, 2 strikes. And they're going to take a 7-5 lead.
So Geyer 3 for 3. Driven in 8 runs, gets an inside fastball, and just eases it over the head of Saladino. And the Indians have come roaring back once again.
Well, that's what they have. That's what they had last year, and that's what they really have had this year. Terry started them off with that last year, that TWTW. And they just feel like if they're down or tied, that they're going to win the ball game. We were talking about that after the game last night in '05 when our Sox won the World Championship. Every time during the season we got into a close ball game, all of us just sat back and smiled because we knew we were going to win it.
Yeah, that whole philosophy that a team can get pretty much is, we're better than you. You'll make a mistake before we will, and we'll just stay close. And eventually, you guys will give it up.
That's why I had to fill out that questionnaire last week on the best team in all my years in this game. I think they're questioning guys who've been in the game 50 or more years. And best team I've ever seen. The best team I've ever seen was the Oakland A's. Not the most talented, but the best team I've ever seen with the Oakland A's when they went out there 5 consecutive divisional titles and 3 consecutive world championships. And that's exactly the attitude they had.
72, 3 and 4, they won the World Series, and just shut down pitching. Defense had never made any mistakes, and just enough offense. I mean, they weren't an offensive club.
There were other more talented teams in the game, but they went to the ballpark every day. They didn't go to the ballpark every day saying we're going to kick some behind. They went to the ball game every day and went into that ball game just, hey, we're going to let you beat yourselves. We're just going to make the plays. We're going to make the plays. And somewhere in that 9 innings, you're going to screw up, and when you do, we're going to jump all over you. One of the most talented teams I've ever seen, maybe, was this Cleveland team.
Boy, they were mid-90s,
yeah,
Cleveland.
When they had the 455 consecutive sellouts. You don't find many. Now, the Big Red Machine of Cincinnati was a very talented team.
Yeah, they were.
But the Cleveland team, in my opinion, was better. Talent-wise. So the second walk of the inning, the first one's what started this thing off with 1 out, the walk to Ramirez.
Here comes Robin, and Tommy Canely, I would assume, is ready to go. So when Noah walks off, Canely comes on. The wheels step out. Be back after these messages. Things you love to do. Schedule an appointment with any of our 340 facilities by visiting athletico.com/appointments. Athletico, the official physical therapy provider of the Chicago White Sox. Athletico, better for everybody. And Tommy Canely comes into the ball game. He's 0-1, ERA up over 5, on for the 15th time. And like a few of our guys in the pen especially, 14 walks, 12 in the third. Inability to get the ball over the plate has been a problem. And with a whole lot of bugs flying around, just pick one out that happens to be residing over the outside corner.
We've seen a lot of that in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
Canadian soldiers, they call them.
There's some of those. There's some other ones that fly in on occasion, but there's been a lot being this close to the lake.
Chops that one foul. Get Ozzie.
Ozzie looks a little thinner. Look at the crowd. Ron Karkovice with a towering home run. Lance Johnson.
One dog. Nailed it. All right, that'll end the inning, but they come up with a pair, and we're into the sixth, trailing by 2. Seven 5 bad guys here in the top of the sixth. Abreu to lead it off. Fouls that back to our right. He's 1 for 2, a single, and a run scored. All right, guys, let's come back. This will be a good one to win.
I don't think Terry's going to be too patient with Carrasco, who, despite using only 78 pitches, still is getting hit fairly hard.
Well, coming off the DL, making his.
Yeah. He had that, and I mean, he's just never pitched well against the Sox.
3-8, lifetime. And Salazar coming off the DL tomorrow.
Carrasco 5.45 lifetime ERA. That's going to go up with this performance tonight. But he's a pitcher record on the plus side.
One and two the count. He did not go.
pretty good idea how he wanted to get him out, and went there a couple times in a row. The second time getting the job. Strikeout number 9.
Morneau fouled out to Santana, and also they poked a little ground ball into left field that went for a double. If you're just tuning in, they have 2 home runs. 2-run shot by Chisenhall, solo shot by Santana, a bomb. We have a 2-run homer from Tim Anderson back in the 3rd inning, and it was also a bomb. That's out of play left side. Two down.
Calling all Star Wars fans, the White Sox are proud to present Star Wars Night at the Ballpark Saturday, August 27th. With the purchase of your Star Wars Night ticket, you'll receive a free Southpaw Star Wars bobblehead. To purchase this package, visit whitesox.com/Star Wars. 10 strikeouts for Carrasco. He has not walked anybody.
Todd with a 2-run double. He's 1 for 2. Now with 74 RBIs. All right, 11 strikeouts. And we trail it by 2. Bottom of the 6th inning. For the Tribe, it'll be Kipnis, Lindor, and Napoli.
Top two you definitely want to keep off because both will try to steal a base.
Kipnis 0 for 2 with a sacrifice fly. Takes first pitch strike. Well, our guys have played a lot of close ball games this year. 68 of our 118 games have been decided by 1 or 2 runs, including 39 of the last 59. We have played 43 one-run games, which is the most in the major leagues, and we are 20 and 23 in those 43. Two things you got to do that we have talked about for years is you got to win close ball games and you got to play well within your division.
Well, that's been a bit of a problem this year, to say the least. The Central for our Sox, 19 and 28 coming in. The Indians on the other side of the page, 32 and 16 against the Central. That's one of the reasons why the team chasing them, Detroit, is 7 back in the loss column, is that somewhat amazingly, Detroit is 20 and 26 against the Central. So they're trying to win a division 6 games below 500, which coincides with the 6-game lead currently by the Indians.
Full count.
There you look at what it looks like. Kansas City has dominated the Central, 29 and 17. The other 3 teams facing Cleveland, all under 500.
And that's out of play. Bottom of the 8th in Detroit, Kansas City and the Tigers are tied at 1. And another souvenir. Top of the 7th. And a rain delay at Baltimore. Red Sox leading the Orioles 8-1.
Baltimore and Boston came in tied for second place behind Toronto, who won their ball game today.
He gone.
Take a look at the East, and you see, pending tonight's outcome, Toronto, who beat New York 7-4, leads by a game and a half over a tied Baltimore and Boston, with the Yankees 7.5 back. 2 games over 500 despite trading just about everybody away at the deadline.
There's a first pitch strike to Francisco Lindor, who's 1 for 3 with a run scored. Indians took the opener last night 3-1. Only run we had was a homer by Justin Morneau. That's into left field. Melky fighting the lights and loses the battle.
Looked like he didn't pick it up, and then he brought the glove down, still couldn't pick it up. Put the glove where he thought the ball would be, and it wasn't. And it'll go as a double. Oh, they give him E7. That's pretty tough to do.
That's very tough to do when you're fighting those lights.
Oh, right there you can tell he's trying to get an angle and couldn't see the ball.
The That is a bad, bad call. So here's Napoli.
Second error of the year for Melky.
They might change that one. They have the right to change that in New York.
I would think they could change it or should change it.
Surely.
Yeah.
When you're fighting the lights, I mean, if you can't see it, it's hard. It's hard to catch something you can't see.
Yeah.
Well, there's another thing that baseball is going to have to really tighten up. Official scoring. You got some that are good, and you got some that are really bad. High towering. Trying to come back. It will. Timmy is there.
Sox fans, show your team pride with White Sox checking and an official White Sox debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC.
Ramirez fouls it back. He's 1 for 2 with 2 runs scored. A double, run scored in the second, a walk, and a run scored in the fifth. He also has gone out to right field. Two out, one on. Big gap out there in right center. And a lot of room between Adam Eaton and the right field line. That evens the count at 2. That fastball at 97. That's into center field, right at him. Makes a nice little sliding catch, and that'll retire the side. We'll go to the 7th, trailing 7-5.
bad injuries. One to Nick Castellanos, the other to Jose Iglesias. Castellanos, a fractured left hand. Iglesias with a strained left hamstring. The injury report is brought to you by Dr. Anthony Romeo Orthopedics. If you have any elbow or shoulder problems, go to RomeoOrthopedics.com or call 312-432-2342.
And if you're scoring along with us, take the error away from Melky Cabrera, and that's a double for Lindor.
And that is the correct call.
Yes. Well, I had it for a double all the way and didn't even put down an error for Melky. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Nope.
But the guy made the right move. He changed it. Bob Rosenberg, that's one reason he's so good. Rosie will. If you show me a score that will not ask, I'll show you a bad score. There's a chopper by Shuck. Lindor, very smooth, very quick. 1 out. But show me an official scorer who will ask, and I'll show you a guy who is good.
Yep.
So here's Anderson, 1 for 2.
It's our fourth drive of the game, and it's a towering home run that hit the pole. That replay was brought to you by Ford, inviting you to visit your local Ford store or buyfordnow.com.
You know what we've seen in the last 2 nights, pretty apparent. Kluber doesn't like to pitch right-handers inside. Carrasco does not like to pitch right-handers inside.
I mean,
and he's beaten us by going away, away, away.
And they stay out there. It's not, it's not an isolated situation.
Right.
When they have come in, they've come in off the plate inside, just a show-me pitch, and they pitch away.
Softly hit. Two down.
And back now for the White Sox, number 27, Leonard Navarro.
And we're going to see the same thing tomorrow night with Danny Salazar. Salazar pitched 117 innings, has 133 strikeouts. He's walked 51 guys, and he's only hit 1 person. So that'll tell you he doesn't like to pitch right-handers inside.
Well, he's also on a pitch limit coming back off the DL, so we will see him. The question is for how long.
Got one of the greatest deliveries, one of the greatest releases is a better way to frame it. One of the best releases you'll ever see. Easiest 97 flip. The guy who was the poster child for that release was Mariano Rivera. And of course that guy's been throwing the ball very well. Carlos.
Last 2 times out, Carlos Rodon has been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. That game will be over Comcast Sportsnet. And there's the base hit by Deonner.
So here's what it looks like. Carlos has figured it out the last couple of starts, thrown very well. Danny Salazar coming off the DL, but 11-4 with an ERA of 3.38. Terry Francona coming out. He has seen enough from Carlos Carrasco. He will go to the bullpen. So with 2 outs here in the 7th, he departs. We'll step out and be back after these messages. Bat app. You can stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. So Kyle Crockett comes in the ball game, a left-hander out of the University of Virginia. On for a 23rd time, hasn't been all that much of a mystery. 6.23 ERA, opponent's batting average of 294. In 13 innings, giving up 15 hits. And he's going to try to deal with Adam Eaton. As Mustard, who lost terribly in the race tonight. Still staying around, though. Got to give him credit for persistence.
Adam, 1 for 3, a hustle double. Takes a breaking ball strike. And that evens the count at 1.
I know they don't expect that Adam is going to pull the ball, but you wonder why Santana is holding Navarro on to first base. If he tries to steal, you got a story.
Ground ball hit sharply. And that'll retire to the side. 7th inning stretch. We got some work to do.
Schedule. Boston's still in that rain delay. They're leading Baltimore by a wide margin. Slugfest in Colorado, not much new there.
481-foot home run by Bryce Harper. When he hits it, that may never see playing in Denver. If he's playing Nome, it doesn't make any difference.
No, he can hit him a long way.
Antarctica.
We get a new pitcher coming in the game. It is Dan Jennings. And there you look at the numbers. On for the 46th time, 1.82 ERA. We saw him briefly last night. Gave up a couple of hits, but no runs. And there you look at the rest of the numbers.
So a good job by Canely.
Yeah, a couple of lefties. Canely threw the ball well.
And here is Chisenhall, 2 for 3, a 2-run homer and an RBI single. You know, I got a text a couple innings ago about, we were talking about how you can read a pitcher by his stats on hit batsmen. And one of the reasons you can do that is because it gives you a better idea. It's not that you're worried about getting hit by the pitch. It just gives you a better tell, so to speak, like they say in poker, a tell on how this guy is going to try to get you out. And it's obvious with Kluber, Carrasco, and then Salazar to Mark. They're going to get you out from the middle of the way. That's the way it is. Now, the opposite of that is where you've got to think a little bit differently, is when you get a guy who, when you're going over his stats and how he's going to get you out, and you look at his hit batsman, and you get 14, 18, 10, 20, 12, 17, 18. Now you got to think a little bit. A little bit more.
That he doesn't mind going in there.
Exactly
and
right.
will go in there.
Exactly.
You
So
pitch
now
inside, you're going to hit people.
You got to give him the middle out. And of course that guy was Don Drysdale. Pops him up left side. When you get a guy who's not going to be pitching you inside, you got to take the middle out as you're the hitter. When you get a guy like a Drysdale or a guy who's going to hit a lot of guys, then you've got to take the middle in. You cannot cover the whole plate on Major League pitching.
So it's Rajay Davis coming on to pinch hit, and he'll take over center field for Naquin. He was a big addition to this team.
Better believe it. You better believe it. This guy has just been a pain in the derriere to us since he's been in this league.
33 stolen bases, been caught just 4 times. Then you factor in 99 games, 11 home runs. He's getting it done.
We've hired a guy to manage the Arizona Fall League, Aaron Rowan.
Yeah.
And it's good to see a guy like that get into it, because Aaron's one of those guys who will be a good teacher. He will, especially in the outfield, and then also on how to read a pitcher and how he's going to try to get you out. As we say, you cannot cover the whole plate. There may be once, twice, 3 times a year that you go through a little stretch that you're seeing the ball so long, so well that you can cover the plate. But that is short and sweet. It doesn't happen a lot. I talked to Aaron about it the other night, and he's excited about it as well. He should be, and we're excited. Oh, look at that. That ball. Rajay thought it was going to be foul. Just inside the line.
This ball drops low and in, and he goes inside out. He lost the ball. He didn't know where it was, and he's fortunate. The play was in front of him, so once he lost the ball, no chance. I don't know. You ever lose it in fair territory?
Never, not one time. I'll tell you who did, though. Red Sox had a third baseman named Butch Hobson. Great guy. And Butch, lot of times would hit a line shot right over the first. He's a right-handed hitter. Would hit a line shot right over the first base dugout and run as hard as he could to first base.
Well, he hit 30 home runs one year. I'm not sure he had the best sight though.
Yeah. No, Butch was strong.
Rajay Davis leading Eduardo Nunez. Of course, Eduardo not with Minnesota any longer, and Altuve in the mix.
Good lead. Rack him up. So Dan, good inning for him. And we'll go to the 8th. We still need 2 to tie.
The Indians leading 7-5. They've out-hit our Sox. Anderson, 2-run homer in the 3rd inning. And he's got a 10-game hitting streak. And Carrasco struck out 11 in 6 2/3. He leaves as a pitcher of record. Get the Honda you love at the Honda Summer Clearance Event now at your Honda dealer. And we've got a new pitcher coming in the game. It is Brian Shaw. On for the 56th time. He's a very durable fellow. 2-4 record, 3.60 ERA. Been asked to close a few times, not successfully. An opponent's batting average of .231. That's good as Rajay Davis takes over in center field.
Saladino. Takes first pitch strike.
Brian Shaw with a lot of sliders.
You got a Jim Dandy.
Yeah, he does.
One and two.
Last 3 years with the Indians, 70 appearances, 80 appearances, and 74. The 80 appearances in 2014 led the league. And his ERA the last 2 years was below 3.
That's down past Darryl Boston. That's off the end of the bat into left field. One out, and that'll bring up Melky.
Sox have had 8 hits to 8 different guys, and Melky Cabrera the only one in the lineup without a hit.
Well, that is Shaw's side of the plate. Inside to left-handers, outside to right-handers.
Yeah, when you throw as many sliders as he does, that's probably going to be your strength, and that is his.
He's not going to try to throw him on the inside corner to the right-handers.
No. Well, there's a few guys that try that, usually not successfully, but there's some that try it.
Yes, they did.
And now everybody in the lineup has a hit.
Meanwhile, that brings the timer on the plate. Cardinals used to have a right-hander named Nelson Briles.
Remember him?
He would try to throw. He had a pretty good curveball. He'd try to throw that curveball on the inside corner, as did Ferguson Jenkins, who was a great pitcher.
Yep.
He'd try to throw that slider on the inside corner to right-handed hitters. Not all the time.
Well, Fergie gave up a lot of home runs, but like most of the greats, solo home runs.
Come on, Jose. Let's get something going here, buddy. He's 1 for 3, a single, and a run scored.
Interesting to see what the combination of Perez and Shaw have here, because first fastball on the inside corner, Jose couldn't pull the trigger. The next one, he threw by him. See what he goes to.
Well, you got to pick and choose as a hitter, as we talked about. You can't cover the whole plate, so you got to pick and choose. And chances are, you're not going to beat him on a slider. Unless he hangs it, and then, a lot of guys are going to kill it. But so you're going to have to try to get him on his fastball. Now, if he makes 3 pitches with his slider on the outside corner, if you don't adjust, then you're going to strike out.
I don't think Perez liked that last pitch. Slider up.
One out, one on. And the 1-2 pitch. Ate him up. And they turn it. Terrific pitch right there by Brian Shaw, and we still trail it 7-5.
comes into it. Fifth White Sox pitcher tonight. Turnaround for the 10th time. ERA 9.5. Opponent's batting average 327.
If you just joined us, we scored 2 in the third, 3 in the fourth. They scored 2 in the second, 2 in the third, 1 in the fourth, and 2 in the fifth. And they're trying to pick up their 9th victory against us in the 11 games.
Terry Francona playing a hunch tonight turned into gold for him because he usually doesn't start Geyer against right-handers, but with Renato starting and Geyer's success against him, he played him tonight, but it was the 2-run single that he got in the 5th inning against Inoa that has been the difference in this one.
And of course, that gift run we gave him, that hurt big time. We talked about it last evening that this year, 2016, has been one. Every time we make a little mistake, it turns into a big mistake.
Well, playing as many close games, and you've been detailing it the last couple of nights with 1-run and 2-run games, when you play that many close games, one mistake is going to do you in a lot of the time.
In the major leagues, it's going to kill you. When you give the other team more outs than you're going to get, as that's up the middle. And the gun, yes, beautiful play, ranging far to his left and just absolutely powering it over to Abreu.
This gives you an idea just how much range he has. 360 spin and the blind throw when he gets it there in plenty of time.
From up here, when that ball was hit, it looked like it was going to be a base hit. Santana.
Our Xfinity Speed replay came in the 3rd inning, and it was a rocket of a home run. 26 this year. And that got out of here instantly. The Speed replay is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. That's something Santana does very well also.
So the 1-out walk. And here's Kipnis. Jason 0 for 3 with a sacrifice fly.
Was Kipnis who had the base hit in the 7th that added the all-important insurance run in last night's ball game.
There he goes.
It's probably going to be a stolen base, even though he threw it by him, because Santana was off to the races. It does go as a stolen base, and Turner didn't look at him at all. I would say Carlos Santana had a 2 or 3 step jump before Turner let the ball go. It looked like it hit off the foot of Jim Wolf. See how many steps he's got. Now Turner released it, wouldn't have had him if he threw it right down the middle and he caught it. That's just taking advantage of what the opposition gives you.
Well, this season we've given them plenty.
That would have been an easy 2. Instead, the inning stays alive.
Here is Lindor. He is 2 for 4 with a run scored.
Indians know at this point that if they do hang on, they gain a game on Detroit, who lost 4-1 to Kansas City.
Short pick. Gets him, and that'll retire the side. We are into the 9th in trouble.
Coming in, and he's the man who closed it down last night, Cody Allen. There you look at the numbers on for the 51st time. His ERA, 2.29. 23 for 25 in saves. Bonus batting average is 177. He's got a very hard curveball to go with a 95, maybe occasionally 96 mile-an-hour fastball.
Pretty good tandem they've got down there with Allen and Miller, or Miller and Allen.
Yeah, I mean, they'll
Brian
use him.
Shaw is no slouch.
No, they'll use him interchangeably. We saw Miller for 2 innings last night. He only threw 16 pitches in those 2 innings.
Tell you what,
It was a real easy 2 in the 7th and 8th last night.
there's first pitch fastball strike, 2 more no. You know one thing, that Miller would, that slider he's got would have had no problems with a Hawkeroo.
Boy, he's something.
Breaking ball.
There's that hard hook at 83, and it doesn't stay on the same plane too long, which makes it really tough to hit.
14,371. What turned out to be somewhat of a seesaw game up until the 5th when they put a 2-spot on the board to take a 7-5 lead. Since then, we have only stranded 2 guys.
Well, despite all the trouble Carrasco was in, he didn't walk anybody, and he fanned 11.
That
So although
helps.
it won't look great with 5 earned runs and 8 hits, he hung around. He's a pitcher of record.
Ynoa is a pitcher of record for us.
It's a 93, can look 98 if it's helmet high. A few bugs in the ears and the eyes of Todd Frazier.
Two and two. That's going to be got to be a base hit. And he will go to second as the ball bounced to our dugout. And when you can throw and have the range that youngster has, he's going to make some errors. That was just a bad error right there.
Well, no chance to get Frazier.
No.
He's got to realize Todd runs pretty well, especially after all those steps. He got it over, but in the dugout, off to second. Single E6.
So here's Shuck. He's 1 for 3. Takes first pitch strike.
And JB's got a bug in his eye.
One and one to count. Yankee plans to be with us for the finale of the series tomorrow night. Carlos Rodon against Danny Salazar. And that game will be over Comcast Sportsnet. And what has been a long road trip. 3 in Kansas City. 3 in Miami, off day, which really makes it a long road trip here on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I don't know about you. I hate off days on the road.
So you'd rather get the road trip in, but
Yeah, get it over with.
sometimes you just need that day off.
Well, that's true. But for me, there's a strike. I just hated off days on the road. Back when you were only carrying 9 and 10 pitchers, you needed that often.
Yeah. Different these days.
Oh, yeah.
Indians only have 7 pitchers in the bullpen, and that's unusual. A lot of teams carrying 8 with a 13-man staff.
It's a different game. That's foul back. Gap out there in right center. 7-5 Indians here in the top of the 9th inning. 1 on, 1 out. Let's put a late rush on them, boys. Back through the middle. And to throw to first. Not in time, so that'll put the tying runs aboard.
Somehow this one got by Allen. He probably thought he should have made the catch. It was to his glove side. And Jason Kipnis doing everything he can do, getting it across, but not in time as Shuck hustling down the line.
And Todd's still a second.
I think what he thought is, I think he thought that Allen was going to catch the ball.
Well, you got to make sure he gets by him.
Yep. Three-run homer would look pretty good here.
Well, here's what he did back in the 2nd inning. Check the 3rd inning.
He got a fastball, and only thing that he had to worry about was it hooked foul. It didn't.
Todd really being bothered by bugs out there at second base. Kipnis wiping his face. Attaboy. 1-1 to count. That was close to being a good pitch to hit and close to being a strike.
Yeah, he hung the breaking ball and almost got away with it.
Yeah.
And he hung another one.
And the count's 3-1. Zone him in, reel him in, and light him up right here, Tim. Oh, he missed with a pitch, but he got the call, but it was still a tough pitch. on 3-1.
So with a chance of getting 3, David Robertson starts to loosen up. Otero loosening up for the Indians.
That was a bad call. And there's ball 4. That'll load him up. So 2 infield hits and a walk. And here's DeHonor. DeHonor's 1 for 3. Rajay very deep in center field.
Brewer with the bases loaded, a couple of grand slams, and 247 batting average.
Come on, Deanna. One time. Pops him up. That could be trouble. It is trouble. One will score, and it's a 7-6 ball game.
Single run batted in. Almost a good play by Ramirez, but the over-the-shoulder look, a very difficult play. And with Linder playing up the middle, he had no chance to get there. The only guy that had a chance to get to it was Jose Ramirez. And the ball hits off the glove, bounds away, and the bases are still loaded, but it's a 1-run game.
And we catch a bad break there. The ball didn't bounce away far enough.
Jason Coates, pinch running at first base.
And here's Adam Eaton, who is 1 for 4, a double back in the 5th inning.
Infield in at all 4 positions.
Two.
Awkward swing on a good curveball.
One time, Adam. Stay on it. That ball hit deep to right field, way back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes. A grand slam home run by Adam Eaton, and our Sox lead it 10-7. Mercy.
11th home run. He's driven in 45, and that curveball, instead of going down and in out of the zone, just kind of stayed there. And Adam took it out of the park. We got him on the pitch before, but not that time. He was looking down and in and took it out. And for the 3rd time this year, Cody Allen blows a save. And this one blown big time.
So Adam Eaton, what a swing on that first curveball.
Yeah, the second one just about the same spot.
No stop now, boys. All right, a pitching change, and we'll be back.
Then an 0-2 curveball that doesn't do much curving until it leaves the yard. Grand slam, Adam Eaton, his 11th home run. He's driven in 45. Our Miller Lite play of the game.
Right in the middle of a bubble. So here is Saladino. That was a very, very, very unusual. 2 infield hits, a walk, a little Kansas City special off the glove of Ramirez in short left field, and then the bomb.
Dan Otero comes on, gets the second out of the inning.
There's a strike to Melky. Melky is 1 for 4. Outfield straight up, spread out. As the count evens at 1. For their guys in the bottom of the 9th, Napoli, Ramirez, the first 2. There's a strike for a 1-2 count.
The first career grand slam for Adam Eaton.
That's a fair ball. And that'll retire the side, but a big crooked number goes up on that board, a 5 spot, and we lead at 10-7.
And it's a 10-7 game. An opportunity for David Robertson to nail down a save. On for the 49th time, looking for his 30th save of the year. And this is 36th opportunity. Omar Narvaez comes in behind the plate. He started the game last night.
And here is Napoli. Mike is 0 for 3 with a base on balls, and he takes first pitch strike.
That was a good curveball, bottom part of the zone.
Oh and 2. One and 2. Three bloops and a bomb.
That's the secret. Adam Eaton, first grand slam, 11th home run of the year. He's going to wind up flying by last year's total.
And that is out of play right side. Ten, 13 and 0 for us. 7, 12 and 2 for them. Close pitch, didn't get it. Full count. Come on, David, make him hit his way on, buddy. No walks. So here's Ramirez. Jose is 1 for 3, a double, a walk, and 2 runs scored. Abreu playing behind Napoli as he takes first pitch strike. Ramirez, as you may guess after that previous close-up, very young, just 23 years old.
He's been in this organization a long time for a 23-year-old.
And the count 2-1. That's into center field. That should be a can of corn. And that is out number 1. He had a good pitch to hit. Down and in for him.
Didn't get much of it.
No, he did not. So here's Chisenhall. He's 2 for 4, a 2-run homer and an RBI single. That fastball way high. There's a base hit. So that'll bring the tying run to the plate. That leadoff walk gets you in a lot of trouble.
That tying run represented by Rajay Davis, who was late to the ball game, but trying to make his mark on it as Chisenhall, with his 3rd hit of the night, takes it right back up the middle.
Rajay's been to play one time, had a little Kansas City special. Got sawed off, hit a little soft looper down the right field line. He didn't know where it was, and it fell in fair.
Pretty good idea. He was thinking about bunting his way on with Frazier back and the great speed. but the ball was way out of the zone.
Joe. Well, he got some help right there on a 2-0 count swinging at that pitch.
It's kind of surprising that he wouldn't make him throw a strike because that ball was off the plate. And he fouled it back.
(10-7) Sox on top with 5 in the top of the 9th here if you're just tuning in. And the count 2-2. One thing about Indians have taken over the status and the posture of the Minnesota Twins of a few years ago.
Yeah, never quit.
Never quit.
Right.
He gone, 2 down.
Well, he followed up a high fastball that he threw by him with another high fastball that he threw by him. Good location, no chance for Davis as he couldn't catch up with it. Kept it up, little cut on it, which is his natural fastball. And Davis is down, big out.
Huge out. Swinging at 2 balls.
Yeah, yes he did.
Curveball inside.
Abraham Almonte is on deck.
2-0 the count. Pops it up, and it's not going to be playable. Just over our dugout. Three and 1. It's full with 2 down, 2 on. Just got a piece of it. And once again, the payoff pitch. And once again, a foul back.
He had that kind of at bat in the 5th inning, a battling at bat. He wound up winning it. But David trying to make a good pitch low and away and end this.
right, Chopper, and this ball game is over. So a beautiful comeback for our White Sox, scoring 5 times in the top of the 9th inning, and they win it 10-7 to even up the series at a game apiece.